ESA Honorary Members. Honorary membership acknowledges those who have served ESA for at least 20 years through significant involvement in the affairs of the Society. Gary J. Brewer, Professor of Insect Management at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, has a long record of service to entomology, ESA, and affiliated professional societies. He was department chair at both North Dakota State University and UNL. His extensive involvement in ESA includes NCB president and 2 terms on the governing board, and he was chair of the Council of Entomology Department Administrators and the ESA representative to the Council for Science and Technology. Dr. Mustafa Debon is Distinguished Member of the U.S. Army Medical Department, an ESA board-certified medical and veterinary entomologist, educator, and researcher in insect repellents. He received his BA in biology from Skidmore College, MS in entomology from the University of New Hampshire, and a Ph.D. in entomology from the University of Missouri-Columbia. His global military and civilian entomological work have taken him to over 35 different countries to provide efficient and sustainable management of disease vectors and human protection from mosquito and vector-borne diseases. He has published over 135 peer-reviewed articles, 24 book chapters, and 5 co-edited books on insect repellents and public health entomology. Michelle Smith retired this year after a 33-year career in Corteva Agriscience, where she held leadership and technical roles across disciplines and platforms. Michelle received her BA from Hollins University and her MS degree in entomology from Virginia Tech. Throughout her career and in nearly 40 years as an ESA member and leader, Michelle magnified her impact on entomology through an unwavering commitment to people development, diversity and inclusion, team success, and continuous learning. ESA Fellows. ESA Fellow recognizes individuals who have made outstanding contributions to entomology. Dr. Elizabeth Betsy Beers has worked for Washington State University since 1985, with responsibility for research and extension in Washington's tree fruit industry. Her program has focused on grower problems and adapting to changing needs in IPM programs, including conservation, biological control of indirect pests, and invasive species management. Dr. Henry Fatamiro is a professor of entomology and associate vice president for research at Texas A&M University. He is known for his research on insect behavior, chemical ecology, and IPM. Fatamiro has received over $20 million in grants, authored 130-plus publications, and mentored over 40 graduate students and postdocs. Chao Yang Li, Ph.D., is a professor and endowed presidential chair in urban entomology at the University of California, UC Riverside. He is internationally known for his research on the behavioral, ecological, and physiological adaptations of urban insect pests, aiming to understand how these adaptations help pests thrive in urban environments and their biological trade-offs. Dr. Tracy C. Lesky, Research Leader, Station Director, and Research Entomologist at USDA ARS Appalachian Fruit Research Station, Kearneysville, West Virginia, was elected Fellow in 2024. She is internationally known for her research on behavioral ecology of invasive and persistent native pests, of temperate fruit crops, and development of sustainable tools for their management. Please take your seats and silence your cell phones. The program is about to begin. Please welcome Jennifer Henke, BCE ESA President.
Good morning, and welcome to our very special session on our final day. This is a time where we're going to honor our award winners and feature the Founders Memorial Award honoree. I really appreciate that we got a little time to see the folks who received their awards on Sunday night, and I am just filled with pride and gratitude for each of you who's made this week. It has been truly exceptional. We've gathered here together as we do every year, not just to learn, but really to connect with each other. To inspire each other and to celebrate the achievements that push our discipline forward. We've shared insights in the halls, we've debated ideas in our sessions, and we've rekindled the spirit of collaboration that defines the Entomological Society of America. This week, I've witnessed the passion that each of you brings to our work. Whether you're a student, an early career scientist, an academic, or a veteran in the field, you remind us why we do what we do. Together, we've explored breakthroughs in pest management, biodiversity, and ecological sustainability. We've discussed the urgent issues facing entomology today, from climate change impacts to the crucial role insects play in ecosystems. Today, we pause to honor individuals whose contributions stand out, inspiring us to strive for excellence. These award winners have gone above and beyond, leading research that expands our knowledge, creating tools and programs that enhance our work, and educating the next generation of entomologists. To our awardees, thank you for your dedication and tireless commitment. Your work elevates our entire community, and today we celebrate not only your achievements, but also the impact you have on all of us. And now, to recognize these outstanding achievements, please join me as we watch a video highlighting the incredible work of this year's award winners.
2024 Entomological Society of America Professional Awards. ESA Award for Excellence in Integrated Pest Management. This award, which is sponsored by Syngenta Crop Protection, recognizes outstanding contributions that have a direct relation to integrated pest management, IPM. Deborah McCullough is a professor at Michigan State University in the Department of Entomology and Department of Forestry with a research, extension, and teaching appointment. Her work focuses on ecology and impacts of native and invasive forest insects, then developing sustainable management strategies to protect forest health. ESA Distinguished Achievement Award in Extension. This award recognizes outstanding contributions to extension entomology. Elaine Evans is a University of Minnesota extension educator and researcher focused on pollinator conservation. Elaine's current work includes participatory science projects to document bumblebee populations and discover bumblebee nests, and providing training and resources to enhance pollinator education. Distinguished Achievement Award in Teaching. This award recognizes the most outstanding teacher of the year. Dr. Rupesh Karyat is an associate professor of entomology at University of Arkansas, Division of Agriculture in the Department of Entomology and Plant Pathology. The Karyat Lab studies insect-plant intersections in field crops, and he teaches graduate and undergraduate classes in IPM, insect behavior, and chemical ecology. Nan Yao Su Award for Innovation and Creativity in Entomology. This award recognizes an individual who excels in identifying problems and develops creative and alternative solutions that significantly impact entomology. Dr. Jawad Qureshi is an associate professor of entomology and a research foundation professor at the University of Florida. His research on pest monitoring and management in citrus provided highly significant impacts on Asian citrus psyllid suppression and IPM programs, saving the citrus industry millions in sprays and production costs. Distinguished Achievement Award in the Promotion of Diversity and Inclusion in the Field of Entomology. This award honors a member for creating and promoting a diverse and welcoming environment. Hongmei Lee Bayarle is an associate professor at the Department of Agricultural and Life Sciences and Agricultural Research Development Program at Central State University. She received her Ph.D. in entomology at Purdue University. Her research focuses on evolutionary genomics, epigenomics, and social behavior of honeybees and the landscape ecology of bee pollinators. Science Communication Award, first place. This award honors impactful and innovative communication projects that engage diverse public audiences. Dr. Matan Shalomi is an associate professor of entomology at National Taiwan University. His online course, Edible Insects, based on his exceedingly popular in-person class, has brought the joy of entomology's more curious applications to a global audience of non-traditional learners. Science Communication Award, runner-up. Jace Porter's passion for entomology and conservation drives innovative science communication, which stems from his history as a research technician and educator, allowing engagement with diverse audiences. Jace founded the Global Entomology Coalition, where he launched Expedition Entomology to open exploratory research to the public and shift global perceptions of insects. ESA Certification Awards. ACE Professional Award. Kurt Trefts, ACE, founded and directs Cascade Pest Control, which has about 20 PMPs involved in ESA certification programs. He has served as president of the WSPMA, and his company focuses on IPM, earned a number of environmental awards. Kurt also developed the Laurel Hansen Scholarship in Entomology at WSU. Early Career Professional, ECP Awards. Henry and Sylvia Richardson Research Grant. This grant provides research funds to postdoctoral ESA members who have at least 1 year of promising work experience and are undertaking research in selected areas. Emily Demard is a postdoctoral researcher in Dr. Diepenbrock's lab at the University of Florida. She obtained her Ph.D. in entomology in 2022 from the University of Florida under the supervision of Dr. Qureshi. Her current research investigates the feeding behavior of two major insect pests using electropenetrography, EPG. Early Career Innovation Award. This award honors young professionals working within the field of entomology who have demonstrated innovation through their contributions. Dr. Rob Morrison is currently a research entomologist for the USDA ARS Center for Grain and Animal Health Research in Manhattan, Kansas, where his current research program involves elucidating the behavioral ecology, chemical ecology, and improving the IPM of stored product insects. ECP Extension, Outreach and Engagement Award. This award honors a student transition or early professional working within the field of entomology who has demonstrated excellence, leadership, and creativity in extension, outreach, and public engagement. Michelle Boone contracts with the National Park Service and volunteers with the Xerces Society Ambassador Program, a public outreach and education program about invertebrate conservation. Her commitment to outreach is driven by her identity as a woman of color and desire to shift perceptions about who can be a scientist. ECP Research Award. This award recognizes a student transition or early professional who has made outstanding research contributions to the field of entomology. Dr. Karen Poe is a research entomologist in the USDA ARS Animal Disease Research Unit in Pullman, Washington. She studies the ecological relationships between ticks, their hosts, and the environment that influence the introduction or persistence of ticks and tick-borne diseases that affect livestock and wildlife in the U.S. and abroad. ECP Teaching and Mentoring Award. This award is given to a student transition or early professional who excels in entomological education and mentoring. Sarah Elze, Ph.D., is an assistant professor in the Department of Biological Sciences at Fort Hays State University. She studies native pollinator plant interactions in working and multi-use landscapes and teaches a range of courses in biology, ecology, and wildlife management.
Again, a huge amount of congratulations to all of our award winners. And while while we're still, kind of considering things, maybe the coffee is waking you up a little bit and you're like, how do I get myself on that stage? How do I get one of my friends or colleagues on there? This is a great time to be thinking about that. Who in your life deserves to be celebrated for the amazing work that they're doing? By nominating yourself or nominating a deserving peer, you can help to elevate excellence in our profession. You acknowledge impactful work, and you encourage continued innovation. Recipients of ESA awards can gain recognition among their peers, open doors to new opportunities, and serve as role models for the next generation of entomologists. I know I'm really inspired by how many board-certified entomologists got awards at this meeting, and I'm hoping that maybe I'll get one of those awards one of these days. Many of our branch awards are open right now, and I encourage you to nominate yourself and your peers as you go back to your home institutions. And if you happen to be thinking, Jennifer, I'm not a good candidate for this, I think you need to go attend a workshop this morning at 9:30 a.m. titled Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. So, it is my pleasure to start us on our main event for this morning, our Founders Memorial Award Lecture. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Lars Chittka to the stage to present the Founders Memorial Award honoring Dr. Charles Henry Turner. Lars Chittka received his master's in 1991 and his Ph.D. in 1993 from the Free University of Berlin. He has worked as an adjunct assistant professor at SUNY Stony Brook and later joined the University of Würzburg as an assistant professor. Since 2002, he has been at the Queen Mary University of London, where he is now a full professor and founded the Research Center for Psychology. Dr. Chitka's research focuses on sensory systems and cognition in insects, especially bees. His research has led to key discoveries in bee color vision, cognitive abilities, and behaviors such as social learning and emotion-like states. He is a fellow of multiple prestigious scientific societies, including the German National Academy of Sciences and AAAS. He has published widely in top journals and authored The Mind of a Bee in 2022. Charles Henry Turner was born in 1867 and passed away in 1923. And he was born in Cincinnati shortly after the end of slavery. Was a pioneering African-American and scientist known for his studies on animal sensory capacities, learning, and intelligence. He published over 70 papers, including 3 in Science, and was the first to demonstrate pitch perception to insects. Charles Henry earned his bachelor's degree in 1891 and his master's in 1892 from the University of Cincinnati, and his Ph.D. from the University of Chicago in 1907. Despite these achievements, racism barred him from positions at research universities, so he taught at Sumner High School in St. Louis from 1908 to 1922. A civil rights advocate, Turner published innovative research on insect intelligence despite limited opportunities. Dr. Chittka, we are all looking forward to your presentation this morning. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's amazing that so many of you have managed to get up at this early hour. It's a superlative for me to give a lecture that starts before 8 in the morning. But all right. So the talk I want to give today is about a remarkable scientist whose ideas, I think, preceded pretty much all the trends in animal behavior, animal cognition, not just insects, of the 20th and actually the 21st century as well. He was the first to rigorously explore individual differences in learning, behavior, and cognition across species a century before animal personality made the field popular, and I think in many ways Turner was more rigorous than some of the scholars who popularized that field a century later. He explored rigorously learning, behavior, and memory across insect species, including spatial memory, landmark learning, but also had really visionary ideas about problem solving by thinking, not just by trial and error, that were in sharp contrast to almost all the scholars at the time, and even about the question of a free will in insects and the possibility of emotions. Despite all of that, he's not very well known. And that's hopefully, I'll entice you to read some of his papers. Before I start, I should thank Charles Abramson, who's campaigned tirelessly over the decades to rescue Turner's insights into the present day, and my former student, Samadhi Galpayage, who did much of the background research into Turner's work that led up to this presentation. So as we just heard, Turner was born just 2 years after the end of the Civil War in 1967, and passed away in, 1867, and passed away in 1923. I should say, perhaps as a trigger warning, that I will use some of the language of original documents of the time. I won't say the standard phrase, this may be offensive to some. It is going to be offensive to any decent person. It's offensive to me, but I think it's important not to gloss over the conditions under which Charles Turner worked. He did his undergraduate project on birds. He later switched to invertebrates, but in his undergraduate work, he studied bird brains, and in fact published an article over 80 pages of length on the comparative anatomy and histology of bird brains. You can see some of the drawings from his paper here, and so it's amazingly meticulous work, especially when one considers it was published when he was 24 years old. He later, a year later, published a short summary of this work in the journal Science, as one does. In this article, some of the key findings are presented thus. When we compare the brain of a crow or a titmouse with the brain of a snake or a turtle, it is no longer a marvel that birds bear towards their reptilian cousins the relation of intellectual giants to intellectual dwarves. And later on, not only that, but the cerebrum, the seat of intellectual faculties, constitutes the major portion of that mass. So he used or preceded many of the approaches that people later in the 20th century used to compare brains and their anatomy to link it to animal intelligence. So that was his bachelor thesis. In his master's thesis, which was finished in 1892, he was actually the first African-American student to graduate with a master's from the University of Cincinnati. He published his first work on invertebrates, and in this case, on orb-weaving spiders. And this is a visionary study in many regards. He looked at both at the field level as well as meticulous experiments in the laboratory to explore the challenges that spiders faced and actually experimentally control them to see how they would flexibly weave constructions that often they did not encounter in nature. And one of the key features of that work that is a thread throughout his work is the focus on individual differences in intelligent behavior. So he reports on one spider that actually wove two webs that it controlled simultaneously, and said that the spider appeared to be the mastermind of the locality. And more broadly about his experiment on the flexibility of spiders to cope with unusual geometric challenges, he said, we may safely conclude that an instinctive impulse prompts gallery spiders to weave gallery webs. but the details of the construction are the products of intelligent action. So he conceded that, yes, there is an instinct that prompts these spiders to weave webs, but how they cope with the details of it couldn't just be explained by instinct. This is 30 years before Tinbergen and so on tried to still explain everything in terms of instinct, or almost all of animal behavior. Here's some observations from Turner's supervisor and one of his fellow students. The two seem to be or were related. So this is what they said. Turner was an indefatigable worker, as shown by his papers on the brains of birds and habits of spiders, completed while still an undergraduate. I mean, just even from today's vantage point, publishing your undergraduate work in science, plus an 80-page article in a sort of field-specific journal and so on, is just outstanding. He was a shy, reticent fellow with pleasing personality. The seminar group included the sons and daughters of several prominent Southern families who might not be willing to drink tea with Turner, although he was personally liked by all of them. So it's quite, I mean, you have to view all of this from the perspective of the time, and it's perhaps unsurprising that Turner quite early on decided, right, I've had it. I want to be perhaps among people, among my own people. So he applied at the time of his completing his master's thesis to Tuskegee Institute, which historically was a black university in Alabama, and wrote, I am a colored man, and at present am teaching at the University of Cincinnati, white. I am anxious to get to work among my own people. And so on. He was not accepted at that time and continued his scientific work, initially as a professor at Clark University in Atlanta, where he taught, but at the same time began his Ph.D. studies, and then completed his Ph.D. at the University of Chicago, where again he was most likely the first African American to secure a Ph.D. And his ant work, he studied the individual differences, again, in learning ability for various spatial challenges. What you can see here are some learning curves on the right side of two different individuals. Now, when I was a master's or PhD student in the 80s, 90s, we were told that individual variation is just noise. Just lump all of it, get rid of it. You only get the species picture if you get averages. And Turner, a century before, recorded individual learning curve for every ant tested, which he actually marked individually with paint dots. And not only studied how their maze running abilities improved over time, as you can see in these two figures, but also studied problem solving. So in one experiment, very elegant, he put individual ants on a little island separated from the mainland by a moat, and found in one case that an individual ant tried to build a little bridge from 3 different materials to reach the mainland, and concluded that this must have been driven not by some hardwired routines, but by an understanding of the actual outcome of the behavior. And one of the main conclusions was ants are much more than mere reflex machines. They're self-acting creatures guided by memories of past individual ontogenetic experience. In that same year, 1907, when he completed his PhD in Chicago, a position became vacant for a professorship. Turner applied, and it initially looked as if he would get it, but then did not. And William Dubois, a famous African-American scholar, summarized it in these words. C.H. Turner, one of the great world authorities on insects, nearly entered the faculty of Chicago University, but the head professor who called him died, and the successor would not have I can't pronounce that word, despite a reputation which was European. In those days, European meant of great stature, I guess. Turner died in a high school of neglect and overwork. So Charles Turner then indeed applied to become a teacher at Sumner High School in St. Louis. This is the Wikipedia entry. This was the first high school for African American students west of the Mississippi. It exists today. It's a famous school and has a good number of famous alumni as well. I noticed that Tina Turner actually graduated there as well, no relationship. But the remarkable thing perhaps is that even though he worked for the rest of his life as a high school teacher, because it was clearly of importance for him not to stand on the sidelines and to train young African American children, he also continued to publish dozens more papers on the color vision of bees. He had another science paper on intelligent behavior in snakes, the psychology of playing dead, and so on. It's, for me, nothing short of superhero status. You have to imagine a local school in those days without a modern library, without any kind of laboratory facilities, no technicians, no PhD students, postdocs, none of that. He did it by himself. And nonetheless, even it's not just the quantity, it's the fact that this work was really far ahead of its time. Here's one example. So this is a figure made by Samadhi Gapayaga. It's not an original one. He studied visual landmark learning in solitary burrowing bees. And he has multiple different experiments, but in one he noticed that there was a discarded Coca-Cola cap next to a nest entrance of one of these burrowing bees, and then thought, all right, now what happens if I move that cap? Where will that bee search? And sure enough, it turned out that the bee's behavior in looking for its nest entrance was guided by where that Coca-Cola cap was. So it was not a homing instinct, but one where the bee was clearly guided by a landmark. And he also observed that there's none of that blundering into a solution which the method of trial and error demands, which was a direct attack on Thorndike and his theories at the time about trial and error learning. But if you've probably all, so the bee moves its behavior over there. You probably all saw this experiment in your undergraduate animal behavior studies, where Tinbergen, decades later, did the same experiment. So in this case, it was with digger wasps, and the digger wasp's entrance wasn't marked by a Coca-Cola cap, but by pine cones. But that's the experiment that everyone learns about in the textbooks. Tinbergen got the Nobel Prize. Turner did the experiment a few decades earlier and didn't, and wasn't cited by Tinbergen either. No further comment there. Here's another experiment where Turner explored early on, before Carl von Frisch. Actually, he didn't quite get as far, but he explored color vision in bees. And one of the wonderful things is that his paper contained detailed instructions of how to build artificial flowers, as you can see in these panels B, C, and D, which are so detailed that Martin Dürfer and Gabriela Sanchez recently reconstructed these flowers from the historic instructions. I have a passion for building exotic artificial flowers, so this is really quite wonderful to see these detailed instructions on that topic from a more than century-old paper. He experimented with a wide variety of insects, in this case with cockroaches, for example, where there are two figures, one in 2D and one a photograph of his actual maze. And he, again, plotted individual learning curves for each cockroach in navigating this maze. In this context, he explores age differences in navigation ability. He looks at speed accuracy trade-offs, which embarrassingly I started studying in the 90s without any awareness that Turner had looked at these quite a while before. And in the decision-making of the cockroaches, where they displayed trade-offs between continuing to run a maze or jumping over a gap to find shortcuts, he explored whether, or at least intellectually explored, whether there might be a kind of free will at work. A century later, the first time to my awareness that this idea was mentioned again in insects was by Martin Heisenberg in 2009. So there are multiple ideas which really weren't just expressed or experimented on a few years before they were published by others, but a century. Here is an exploration, at least a theoretical one, of emotions in insects. So Turner observed these two Ammophila wasps copulating. This is a photo from one of his papers. And he wrote that the coiled antennae, the protruding mouthparts, and the general attitude indicate intense excitement. One who believes that insects have emotions will find much in the attitude of these two Ammophilas to support his view. So just to sum up these findings, I think that Turner was really a giant in not just insect, but more generally animal cognition, and quite possibly the biggest visionary pioneer of the field at the time. His ideas back then were in sharp contrast to everything else that floated around. All these theories of associative learning by Pavlov and Thorndike and so on were not just explicitly verbally confronted by Turner, but he actually did experiments to show that there's more going on in animal problem solving. He was also, to my mind, the first to consistently explore variation in cognition and problem solving by insight and understanding rather than trial and error, and even pioneered the questions of free will and emotions that us sort of consciousness researchers are keeping ourselves busy these days. So there is an important lesson here. The important lesson is that if you do not hire people according to their talent, but by something else, you risk falling behind a century in intellectual development. I don't know where we might be had these ideas been taken seriously at the time. It's not just about whether Turner would have deserved a Nobel Prize. I think that goes without question, but it's more broadly where a field might be if we had attached the investigations right at the time when these ideas were first aired. Turner wasn't unknown. He is cited by Carl von Frisch, for example, Thorndike, and so on. So it isn't that he went unnoticed at the time, and he obviously published over 70 articles, 3 of which in the journal Science. I think that part of the question why he isn't more widely known is also the fact that he had no opportunity to train a school. If, for example, you think of one of his contemporaries, Ivan Pavlov, who did win the Nobel Prize, he had trained over 140 junior scientists who could go to conferences, who could develop the ideas further and carry them into the next generation. And Turner obviously had none of that. And so I really think that the field of animal cognition, learning and memory would be in a completely different, unpredictable place if we had attached the progress right to the back of Turner's publications. Now, some of the events at the time, we think we live in difficult times, and we do, but this, for example, happened right across the river where Turner used to work at Sumner School in South St. Louis. There was a riot, a pogrom where over 100 African Americans were killed, thousands of homes were destroyed. I cannot possibly imagine what it must have been like under these conditions to continue your work in science and also to be idealistic enough to to work towards racial integration and so on. And this is a topic in which Turner chose not to stand on the sidelines. Despite his busy life as a scientist, he published extensively on racial integration, as it was called at the time. So here are some quotations. He wrote that prejudice is older than this age. A comparative study of animal psychology teaches that all animals are prejudiced against animals unlike themselves, and the more unlike they are, the greater the prejudice. Among men, however, dissimilarity of minds is a more potent factor in causing prejudice than unlikeness in physiognomy. If we cast aside our prejudices and try the highest education upon both white and black, in a few decades there will be no problem. Now, we might say from today's vantage point that this was perhaps optimistic, but then have we gone all the way in the question of education? And this is obviously something that today quite clearly influences election results, not necessarily in directions that Turner might have predicted at the time, but education clearly is a really important factor, and that was also what Turner dedicated his life to as a high school teacher, in addition to being a very prolific scientist. One take-home message that I'd like to leave you with is please read Turner's papers in the original. They are gold mines of scientific insights, but they're also beautifully written. This here is actually from the first paper I ever read by Turner, because it was misquoted in an early 20th century German paper as evidence for play behavior, even though Turner didn't say that at the time. So I'll just read part of this back to you because it's just too wonderful. The time was the month of August. The place, an abandoned garden in Augusta, Georgia. In one end of that garden, where a poor stand of grass had supplanted the beans which once flourished there, a host of burrowing bees, bearing the generic name Melicides, had excavated their burrows. Some of these burrows were exposed in barren spots, while others were hidden more or less in clumps of grass. At any hour of the day, the industrious burrowing bees would be seen storing their nests with pollen, and so on. Crossing the path of the breeze and the rays of the sun at every possible angle, active alike in sunshine and shadow, yet disturbed by even slight changes in the topographical environment of the burrow, the female Melicides continues her work from early morn until set of sun, proclaiming, in deeds more eloquent than words, my behavior is much more than a complex of anemotropisms and phototropisms, for my homing is controlled by memory pictures of the environment of my nest. Thank you very much. All right. I'll stick around then.
Lars, that was, what an amazing way to end your talk this morning with Charles Henry Turner's words, because I know, having talked with several of our editors, the importance and the beauty of writing is just so impressive. Thank you so much for bringing us more about Charles Henry Turner, and thank you for ending with his words as part of that. Please join me in thanking Dr. Chittka. All right. With that, it is my pleasure to say a few words on our final day. And to highlight some of the things. One of the items that I wanted to highlight for folks is that so many of you have played along with our new game of Fill It Forward. It is a charity, but there is some gamification in there, and every time you scan your sticker, your code. I've been able to see that folks are doing that. I see we're up to 890 reuses, which is awesome. One of the things you may not know is that we have this going for the entire year until we come back together in Portland. So I'm looking forward to us seeing how many times we reuse our water bottles when we're back at our workplaces and how much of a difference we're able to make at that point. I will say I do need to finish setting up my own profile. Mine is currently calling me Gregarious Superwoman, which, doesn't quite feel right, but, maybe I'll have to come up with a better name for myself. So if you didn't get your sticker, they are by registration. I hope that you'll come join us in this part. I do also want to remind you of how generous all of us have been. I really appreciate the flexibility that folks have had this year to donate to Social Offset and spend money back in our community that we're visiting here with the programs and the charities that mean the most to us. So you will find this in your app. If you would prefer to use the QR code on the screen, you'll find that you can donate to any or all of the charities that you may want to, and they're doing so much good work here in Phoenix, where we've been so fortunate to come and visit for a few days. I did challenge us on Sunday night. I wanted to add a little art, a little fun, and I had us start off with a little inspiration of a haiku that was translated of Matsu Basho's. And so I did pick a few of my favorites that I saw people post in their social media, so I do want to share those with folks. This one was particularly lovely and played on some advice I heard some folks say that a lot of our family names and species names had that 5 syllables or 7 syllables, so icy and cool, cricket, cockroach, I think not, grillo blattidy. Some folks decided to make some fun jokes, which was really good, of course. Spotted lanternfly. I like your plasticity. New York State hates you. And then Ecology Elise had one that definitely picked up on my heart, which was, should they diapause or fly longer this autumn, insects will adapt. I hope you had fun with this. I do enjoy playing with words. It was a lot of fun for me as part of this. I'm just noticing that my notes for this slide are something that I'm going to need later, so I'm just trying to remember those so that I can hold on to those a little bit longer in my own brain. Thank you for giving me a little patience with that. That's because we dropped in some fun slides for this morning. I was super excited that we got to do the insect Art Expo again this year, and so I am going to announce some winners for that. The third place winner for this this is Ann Johnson's carpet beetle carpet, which was super gorgeous, this really lovely latchwork rug. Our second place winner, thank you all, is Caitlin Silva's Save a Horse, Ride a Pepsis, a really fun play on a fun country song. And that leaves the first place winner, which is this beautiful work by Meredith Wilmot, her Entomology knitting. Again, thank you to all the artists and participants. Thank you all for voting in part of these. It really does warm my own heart. I so much appreciate our interplay between science and art. I know sometimes folks will think they're diopposed, but obviously the two go together in such beautiful ways. So as I have a few words to close my time as your president before I introduce our next president, who I'm super excited about, I wanted to harken back a little bit to our opening plenary. Sean Otto reminded us of how we got to the world we are today and why we are sometimes feeling pressure to communicate our science better and to communicate it differently and to do different things. He also reminded us that some of our most productive scientists are also really involved because they've taken the time to learn how to make better connections so that they can communicate better with each other and with our public. And so we did hear this call that it's time for us to continue our work in communicating our science and to do that really well. I say that because I was reminded of someone else in my life who, and probably yours, maybe yours, who made similar comments. I moved around a little bit as a kid, and at least part of my time growing up, I lived outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And that meant that Mr. Rogers was a staple on my childhood home. He was a trusted friend that we could listen to. And a lot of you have likely watched his show, whether you watched it as a kid or you've watched it with your kids or with young people in your life. I was remembering that there's this beautiful interview that you can find on YouTube still, where Mr. Rogers was being interviewed and asked, how does he explain hard things to children? And why is that important? And he shared this piece of advice, that when I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. And some people will see solace in this quote alone, but really this next piece of advice is always important, also important for us to think about. Children are meant to look to adults who are helping in crises. And I think our charge from this week is to be those adults and to be the helpers. We know that there are scary things in this world, and our role in this time is to provide support and guidance to each other, to share our knowledge, to be active listeners, to demonstrate how people can be certain in a time of misinformation. I hope that as you leave Phoenix and look forward to the branch meetings and to the Portland in 2025, that you will remember that we are these helpers. I do want to spend a little bit more time thanking a number of people who are those helpers today. There are a huge number of committees here at ESA, and this doesn't even include all the sections and the branches and their committees, but there are so many volunteers that make ESA run and give back in all of the ways that we care about so much. So I know an email is coming out from me in the near future, but I also want to say on behalf of your governing board, thank you so much for the work that you put into our organization. I would also say that it is important to remember how much work goes into our journals, and we've had a wonderful time talking with editors-in-chiefs and editorial boards and subject editors, but also so appreciate the reviewers and the authors and the readers of all this scientific work. Thank you so much. And then I, as the president this year, obviously have spent a lot of time with the governing board. I so appreciate the work that they did. I do want to highlight, we have 5 board members who have finished their time this year, but that just means they're going to go back and work on committees in the very near future. But please join me in thanking Rob Morrison, Jamal Hunter, Julian Sagüez, Jesus Esquivel, and Marianne Aline. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to need you to have your hands ready for just a couple more times, and then I promise we'll introduce 2025. This meeting is a huge event. I hope that you've had an amazing time, and you have been able to have an amazing time because of so many people who've done a lot of work. I did not run these numbers for the student awards ceremony last night, but I did want you to recognize that when we had this wonderful student competition on Monday, that meant that there were 134 moderators that participated. There were 338 slots for judges and alternate judges, which meant there were almost 500 of you that were were doing that, and 90 volunteers filled in on multiple roles. Again, thank you all so much for this. And that is because of the leadership of our section leaders as well as the program committee, both Brian Lovett, Esther Ngumbe, Katie Britt, James Villegas, and last but certainly not least, Floyd and Karen. So please join me in thanking them. When I talked to Floyd and Karen, both of them are friends of mine, and I so appreciate that they said yes to me. I'm still not sure how much I owe them. I know I feel like I owe them the moon and the stars and maybe a few extra things. But they did say, Jennifer, like, we don't want a plaque. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, it's just not my style. And I said, okay. I said, well, what can I do? I'm sharing this because I don't think Floyd's in the room. He had shared that he had a different meeting, but I know Karen's going to come to the stage in a moment. I do have something special for each of them, which was that I was going to give them a gift that's getting sent to their house. So this is what I have for Floyd, which I'm going to have sent to his house. And then Karen, if you'll come up on stage so I can get a picture with you. They each picked what they wanted, so I just want to highlight this is what Karen asked me for. I also was told that I couldn't just give them a gift on my own, so you may have noticed that I handed them something, and that is from ESA specifically, that still some insect lovely prints and things for them to join. With that, I am almost done. That means I can take this jacket off and relax, but it is before I do, I need to bring up our 2025 President, Lina Bernaola. Lina, you have an amazing time ahead of you. It's been such a pleasure to watch you in the role of Vice President, and I'm looking forward to your leadership in this next year. Thank you so much.
Jennifer, please don't go away. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be here and see you all this morning. I appreciate the effort to stay a little bit more. So, thank you. Jennifer, on behalf of the society, I would like to congratulate you for all your leadership this year. You have been amazing. We have been productive, and we did a lot of work this year. And I'm sure that your passion and tenacity that I admire of you will continue also in the next year as we continue to work together. Your effort hasn't gone unnoticed by anyone who had a pleasure to work with you. I really enjoy spending time with you and learning from you. And I hope that you don't mind a few phone calls in the future from me. I also am glad that we share not only business meetings or conferences, but also fun team building events. And I look forward to keep collecting those efforts as we continue improving our society. So please, let's give her a round of applause and thank her for her service. Okay, so before we dive into the 2025 team and business of ESA, I thought it would be a good idea to introduce myself and perhaps share a few facts that you may not know about me. I will start by saying I'm Lina from Lima, Peru. I was born and raised in Lima, which is also the place where I did my undergraduate studies at the Universidad Nacional Mayor de San Marcos. Later, I moved to the United States to pursue my master and Ph.D. at Louisiana State University. And now, I am an assistant professor in Texas A&M, and as well as an early career. I would like to bring to you now the theme for 2025, Bridging Generations with Innovation, Legacy, and Passion. Before I start to talk about the theme, I would like to thank Alex Weil for this beautiful photo that I get to use the whole year. It's Alex Weil on this room. It's okay, I have 1 year to thank him. So, when I was thinking about the vision for 2025, or I guess first, I can't believe that it's already 2025 pretty much, and that we are thinking, or seeing myself here standing in front of you as the president of ESA. When I think about the vision, I think about the strong legacy that we have based on our past leadership, and that made the strong society that we have today. ESA has gone through different changes through the years, where many of these people that you see here were involved in those changes. For example, if you don't know, restructuring our sections was one big important change. For new members, you may not know that we used to have 6 sections. Those were consolidated to the 4 that we have today. Another important change was the creation of the international branch. In addition, we have the creation as well of the student rep and the early career seats on the governing board. I was part of that decision, so I'm very happy to know that. Also, adding the first strategic plan for that society was another big change as well. And finally, another example was the approval of the new pilot section for teachers or educators. My hope is that as we continue working and improving our society, is that we will continue to create a ripple effect that will be appreciated by the next and future generation. Why innovation? As we know, entomology science is evolving every day. And as a society, we need to meet those challenges, embracing new technologies, such as, for example, artificial intelligence, as well as big data science. I would like to encourage to all of you to continue working on the frontier of our sciences, and together we can meet those challenges as well. We can create opportunities that can help us to not only meet those challenges, but also improve our society. The way that our society has worked in the past has served us very well, but perhaps there are other things that we can improve that will make to run our business as a society better, and also that will impact more in our members. I would like to review, for example, our current programs to see which offer the most value for our members, and assess if there are needs for new programs or just adjustments for the existing programs that we have today. passion. Something that Jennifer inspired me to think about that this year. And also one of the strong characteristics that I see as well on me is creating opportunities for our members, is developing their professional skills. So this is vital for our society, for the health of our society, and as well for is part of one of the strategic goals. As an early career myself, I feel strongly about including students, early careers, mid-careers, everyone, and developing their professional skills. I am grateful for the opportunities that ESA has provided me that have helped me to improve not only as a mentor, as a communicator, as well as an early career. As I continue to grow and develop in my career path, it is my hope that the next generation will get more interest as well as our current members, and will carry out in our traditions. In terms of priorities for 2025, of course, we have great programs that will continue into the next year. But in terms of training programs, I would like to focus on students and ECPs. As well, I would like to explore any unmet needs for our members. As a part of that, I would like to discuss the future of STEM education as well, and see how ESA can help to implement changes and to be able to elevate our next generation with programs that perhaps we are needing and we are not having right now. The whole idea is to prepare students and future leaders for the workforce demands. Another important need in 2025 is upgrading our strategic plan for the next 3 years. That is something that I will work with the governing board, and we will hold a summer meeting to discuss and update the next strategic plan. Regarding our journals, our contract with Oxford University Press is ending in 2026, and we are exploring already opportunities with other publishing partners that will meet the needs of our society, to be able to, because we are committed to choose a strong publishing program. Finally, one thing that I am very passionate and more excited about, it's, I guess, being able to go to the branch meetings and elevate the voice of our members, especially the next generation. I know that you have a lot of ideas on how we can help to elevate the voice of our early careers and students. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me in the future, or even in the today meeting, if you have great ideas how to support them. So I look forward to getting to know you more, and I hope I can serve you well as the president of ESA. As a sneak peek of 2025 annual meeting, I would say that I'm exploring opportunities for keynote speakers. That will align with the theme of this year, or yes, next year. So far, I have already a speaker in mind, but I would like to see also an early career or mid-career that would like to present a plenary session. So please, if you have ideas of great speakers that would be interested to give a talk next year, I would love to hear those as well. So I also envision a program symposium with students in early careers working together. There are a lot of different angles that we can take to submit ideas for the program symposium. Another prestigious award that we just present is the Founders Memorial Lecture. As you know, that is an important award that is given to recognize the outstanding contributions of a legend in entomology. I encourage you all to think about the greatest entomologists that you would like to highlight, and don't be shy to submit your nomination. Even if you are an early career, please don't feel shy, and I expect nominations from you as well. As always, the program symposium should be focused around the team. I would like to encourage everyone to submit ideas that align with a team of bridging generations with innovation, legacy, and passion. And to the organizers, you should be thinking of, in creating opportunities that will, for example, resemble topics like future of entomology, challenges of entomology as well, artificial intelligence, and data management as well. Some ideas. For sure, I encourage you to be inclusive in working with involving different career stages, different disciplines, and different backgrounds. I think it would be great to see a program symposium where graduate students submit and include undergraduate students and their teams. This year, we had, for example, students organizing workshops dedicated with a publication, for example. I would love to continue seeing that in the next year as well considering workshops in peer reviewing manuscripts, or perhaps how to write grants. Those are things that I think students are appreciating. In terms of the meeting submission deadlines, I know some of you perhaps are already thinking to submit for next year. For the program symposium, here are some of the deadlines to consider. Now, I am really excited that we are going to have our annual meeting in Portland, Oregon next year. I was there in 2014 at my second meeting, and I'm happy to be back there after 11 years. They have a beautiful convention center, and also the skyline view is not bad as well. I am looking forward to work with the governing board, with the program co-chairs, as well as with the program committee. And with the 2025 annual meeting program co-chairs, we have Dr. Katie Britt and Dr. Jane Villegas. It's Katie and Britt Katie and James in the room. Could you please stand up? Thank you, Katie. And I will encourage you as well that if you see them on the hallway, please share your thoughts in the way how you would like. Also, if you have ideas or suggestions for the next year meeting, we would like to have a strong program for next year. With that, I'm looking forward for a great year, everyone, and thank you for your attention.